We have a lot of cases where people bring classic cars in and get all the work done, and then the client drives off in the car and then decides that they're gonna charge back when we can prove that the parts are in the car. So again, I have to believe that the majority of people that behave like this are like serial fraudsters, because nobody is sophisticated enough, I think, to do this on their first try. It's especially with the larger chargebacks, like their hubris or arrogance, I guess, maybe just multiplies over time, and they think they can get away with it.
Welcome to the Payments Experts Podcast, a podcast of Global Legal Law Firm. We hope you enjoy this episode. Very excited. Today we have in studio joining us Senior Associate Attorney Larry Haynes, as well as Senior Associate Attorney Bryce Vandermoor. Gentlemen, we're talking about friendly fraud today. We're looking forward to this topic. Jump right in.
What we're here to talk about today is kind of a phenomenon that I've been experiencing for about a year now, which is where clients or merchants are coming to us and they have provided a service or offer or provided a good, and they can prove that, but the customer, for whatever reason, decides to charge back. And because banks in chargeback situations are 9 times out of 10 always going to side with their cardholder, they end up approving the chargeback, and the merchant is then faced with the choice of having to approach or go after the fraudster personally, which I prefer. But they want, what they come to me asking for is if I can approach the bank and ask them to reverse the chargeback, which means I basically take the money back out of the fraudster's account. And it's a very hard sell, especially when you are dealing with a bank who has absolutely no financial incentive to assist you at all. And these people, want their money. They deserve their money. They want a quick resolution, and the banks just aren't providing it. So more and more, I've just, I'll send like 1 letter, 2 letters, and then that's it. And I start promoting to my clients that, we approach the fraudster directly. And I personally think that if, I knew I did something, I knew I stole something, and then I get served with a complaint by a sheriff, and I know I have no defense, I would assume that they're going to roll right over and want to negotiate, because what's their defense going to be? Like the one where like the beams were put in the house and he charged back like $300,000 anyway. When there's pictures of the beams in the house, it's holding up his house. It's holding up his house. Exactly. So what's he going to do? And I guess we're going to find out pretty soon. But
yeah. Well, I think it's rather funny. You call it friendly fraud. That's kind of like friendly fire, in wartime. Well, there's nothing friendly about your own artillery dropping rounds on you. There's nothing friendly about these people doing fraud, but we call it friendly fraud based on the fact that, it's people that are supposed to be doing business with you. So one of the things that you can do here in California, for example, there's actually some statutory authority that says that if someone steals something from you, you can sue them. There's a private cause of action. And it's kind of nice because statutorily, you can collect up to 3 times however much they stole from you, and you can get attorney's fees. So that can get rather pricey. So somebody steals, $10,000 worth of goods or services, doesn't want to pay for it, they still owe it. So you can sue them, and you can collect up to $30,000 and attorney's fees. And sometimes, if you go all the way through trial, that could be another $20,000, $25,000. So it's a good hammer to hit them with, so that they want to settle the case and make the merchant whole.
Especially when it becomes clear that they are going to be liable, or possibly going to be liable, for fees and costs way beyond the amount that they took. And we understand that this is a difficult decision for a lot of merchants. Committing to a lawsuit, committing litigation is a difficult decision, but in my mind, it is the fastest way from point A to point B. And I've been working with Larry, and we have devised a system or a protocol where we can approach these people and get the maximum amount of bang for the least amount of buck.
Right. And, as it comes to lawsuits, these are not particularly complex, because basically it's you took it, you didn't want to pay for it. We proved you didn't want to pay for it because you charged it back. and your chargeback reason is invalid, and basically you just think that you're going to be able to walk away with whatever you got. You get the hotel room, you decide you want to charge it back. You've got the goods, you've consumed them, now they're gone, you don't want to pay for them. There's some people that do this on a regular basis. There are professional chargeback people, and many of them. Of course, one of the things we have to make sure of is it worth pursuing? Because when you first think about suing somebody, okay, let's assume we win and we collect.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have staff on that we have here that can do background checks and financial checks to determine if somebody is worth suing. And if they are, if they own a house here in California, they own other assets that can be the source of a payment for a judgment, we'll give that advice to our clients and move forward. I would say that probably 95% of the time, if we're going to file, we're not going to try that case. It's never going in front of a jury. They're going to settle.
Oh, absolutely. Again, what is their defense? So anyway, that and also I think we were discussing the need for a mechanics lien. Some of these.
Yeah, if somebody, for example, if you are a subcontractor or you are a contractor and you're doing work for someone's house, or you supplied the goods to put into the house, you sold the plywood to somebody and it went into that house, you have a mechanics lien right to that real property. So there are some short time frames. I believe it's 60 or 90 days that you have to make your lien. So if you come to us early and you've got somebody that's done the chargeback, first thing you want to do is actually
file a lien.
Record a lien, and that gives you the right then, once they ever refinance or they sell, that's a lien on the house, and that's something that can come back. After a judgment, if they don't want to pay and they have real property, that judgment can be recorded, and then again, carrying 10% interest that starts adding up, much better than you can get at a bank. You can actually secure your right to recovery.
Yeah, and my individual research reflects that I think that you can extend the timeline for a mechanics lien to when the chargeback actually happens, because you've been paid, and now the bank is coming in and saying, now that they're disputing the charge, we're going to put this money in an escrow account while you guys adjudicate this and find fault. And so my thought is that, my suspicion is, and I want to put it into, I want to test it, is that, once that chargeback is approved against you and they take that money, I think that is when another 90 days starts running on, and you can actually, so basically, like I said, you can file a mechanics lien way beyond the initial 90 days if they charge back, because you had the money. And I also want to make something clear. I don't think I did before. Just because, and I want to make sure merchants understand this, that just because a bank approves the chargeback when you've produced copious amounts of evidence to the contrary, it doesn't mean that the debt is not still valid. It just means that the bank does not want its credit card associated with it, and you're on your own. So I don't want people to think that just because the chargeback went against them, they're not still entitled to those funds, because they absolutely
exactly.
So I'm so sorry, Larry. Go ahead.
Okay, if you have a chargeback on a credit card, that's no different really than somebody writing you a bad check, or somebody who gives you counterfeit money. Once you determine that it's not being paid, then your right of recovery exists.
It's a very important point. We've had on this very podcast former clients of ours, chargeback gurus, and their entire business model is chargebacks. That's all they do day in, day out. They told us on pretty good authority that they think maybe 5 minutes at most is spent reviewing these chargeback disputes. 5 minutes. And on top of that, something like 97% of the time, they're siding with the card holder, no matter what the facts are showing.
Oh, of course. And they're going to still collect their $25 chargeback fee on you, even though they're responsible.
Yeah, I mean, it's the path of least resistance, and frankly, the credit card company or the bank, who's their customer? Who do they want to make happy? It's going to be the person making the chargeback.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where we're at, and this is an area that we would really like to explore. This is something that Larry and I are really interested in. So if you are interested in it and you have been denied a chargeback and you have all the documentation proving and you're sitting there scratching your head about how this is going to happen, please give us a call.
That's super important. This is great, guys. This is great information. Can we, once again, just kind of in a recap, this mechanics lien, first I've ever heard of this. Sounds like an awesome mechanism. Can you maybe talk just a little bit more? How is it done? How easy? How come this hasn't come up before? We guys talk a little bit about that?
Well, outside the context of credit card chargebacks, a mechanics lien is available to anybody who provides labor or material to real property. And what that does is it basically puts a lien on the real property because you've improved that real property through your labor or your materials. And that gives you an opportunity to get paid.
Yeah, did you know that mechanics lien does not just apply to mechanics?
Yeah, that's
it's a term of art.
Right,
it's a term of art.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you provide a good, you provide a service, you provide the material for the service.
So just to be
you're
clear,
covered.
this is not going to help necessarily our e-commerce friends who are selling services or let's just say goods that are drop shipped from China. It's going to be really if there's an actual mechanical.
If
physical.
if the transaction has to do with real property and the improvement of real property, that is one avenue of, if you will, securitizing your debt.
Yeah, like plumbers, electricians, contractors, laborers, landscape professionals, anybody that provides a service that where they can show that it was. We had another one, tutors. You know, like remember Star Ed? Yeah. I mean, maybe it doesn't apply, but come and talk to us first, and we'll find out.
We can
for
figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of auto guys that sell custom auto parts that go into
absolutely.
cars.
Absolutely. So one of the, again, falling under the rubric of mechanics lien, it actually does apply. We have a lot of cases where people bring classic cars in and get all the work done, and then the client drives off in the car and then decides that they're gonna charge back when we can prove that the parts are in the car. So again, I have to believe that the majority of people that behave like this are like serial fraudsters, because nobody is sophisticated enough, I think, to do this on their first try. It's especially with the larger chargebacks, like their hubris, their arrogance, I guess, maybe just multiplies over time, and they think they can get away with it because 9 times out of 10, it's starting to look like they can.
Yeah, I mean, you go to a hotel, you're there for 3 weeks, you have a $10,000 bill, pay it with a credit card, and then as soon as you get home, you charge it back. Just say, I had a horrible time, or
it was dusty.
It was, yeah.
But I still stayed the whole week. But I still stayed in the property. I didn't leave.
Yeah.
But I wanted my money back. That's just not right. Absolutely not right.
So there's really no reason just to take that one and consider it a loss. If you talk to us, we might be able to recover for you.
And believe me, this is not something that I really. I don't sit in my office every day wondering how can I drag more people into litigation. But these banks just will refuse to get involved because there's no money in it. That is what's in it for them. And if there's just no incentive. And so this is a way that we think to actually get the power back in the hands. And maybe if these people get hit a couple times, they'll stop doing it.
Or people start finding out that there are people that are doing this and they're getting whacked for larger amounts than they actually stole.
Yeah. And hell, I mean, we'll be happy to document our success on the website. You can see how it's going.
Absolutely. And I think that you make a great point. You can have merchants too. Word gets around in some of these small niche, markets for these merchants. Word gets around. Hey, if you charge back against this merchant, they're coming after you.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the areas that I've seen a lot of chargebacks, and it always seems unfortunate for the merchants, are Airbnb. Yeah. People that have Airbnb, they will, they're small business people, and somebody's there for a week and they've charged $2,000, and then next thing you know, they turn around and just say, nope, didn't enjoy the stay. Too much dust. I saw a mouse outside. There was a funny smell, and that's not right.
And here's kind of a warning on Airbnb, because I didn't realize this because I don't use it. But if you decide to do Airbnb, take a very good look at your agreement and make sure that if whoever's running your property decides that they're going to try to skip out on the charges, that you have a right to go after them, because Airbnb is not going to get in the way.
Yeah, unfortunately, Airbnb will unilaterally just yank money back, saying, "Oh, they didn't have a good time." Not my fault.
Yeah,
You got a roof over their head. Everything was fine, and next thing you know, they just don't want it.
sorry. Yeah.
Well, guys, this is super interesting and very excited to see where this goes. As you heard, please, if you are a merchant and you've had a chargeback, what would you say, gentlemen, in terms of might be a minimum amount of the chargeback that you think would maybe make this worth it? Is there a certain dollar ballpark you think we could mention?
Probably $5,000 to $10,000 would be the minimum, because that gets people's attention. That could be anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000, and then you start adding the attorney's fees at the end, and it gets nasty.
And it's not a complex complaint. It's not going to take a lot of time. Drafting a complaint, the filing fee, and service by the sheriff is going to cost what, like
$150. It's not much.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for one defendant, maybe even $75 to $100. Not much.
That's for the service, by the way.
Service of process.
It's not for the complaint. And the thing is, we're going to be out of business tomorrow. That's what we're charging.
Right.
I mean, I'd like to, but I mean, that's, we would be out of business tomorrow. So there we're at. That's where we're at right now. And we'll be happy to come back in a future podcast and let our listeners know how things are going.
Great. Very grateful, gentlemen. We've had today in studio Senior Associate Attorney Larry Haynes, as well as Senior Associate Attorney Bryce Vandermoor. Gentlemen, this was great. We look forward to the next one. And thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Payments Experts Podcast, a podcast of Global Legal Law Firm. Visit us online today at globallegallawfirm.com.